Welcome to Introduction to Programming. This is a video series designed for people who are brand new to programming. This is video number 1. My name is John Duane. This video series is for people who've really not done any programming but who want to learn how. It's going to focus on writing Excel macros, but in the process it will teach the new programmer lots of programming concepts. So that's who this video series is for. It's for someone who wants to learn how to write Excel macros and who wants to learn about some general programming knowledge along the way. What we'll cover are, as I just said, some basic programming concepts, but with lots of Excel macro examples. So Excel macros are built with a programming language called Visual Basic for Applications. So why the emphasis on that? Well, first of all, I know that there's lots of people out there who want to learn how to write these Excel macros. Very useful in business, and the other thing is that this Visual Basic for Applications language is very approachable. It's a easy language to learn, to do the basic things, and then like any programming language, the more time you spend with it, the better you'll be at it, the more sophisticated your programs will be. So that's the reason for the emphasis there. We'll have other examples from other languages, but it'll be mostly Visual Basic for applications using Excel. So what software tools do you need? Well, you need Microsoft Office. That's the number one thing. If you have that, then you'll have Excel, and then within Excel we'll have the programming environment that you'll need to write your macros. The other big software tool you'll need, and I know you have this, is the internet. Pretty much any programming question you have, whether it's in this programming language or in some other, you'll find your answers out on the internet. Our approach is going to be that I'll talk a little theory, and then we'll do examples. We'll try to keep the videos short, and in the beginning the examples will be very short, but each one will teach a concept. So hopefully that'll be beneficial. So that's the approach. So let's talk about programming languages, excuse me, a little bit here. Visual Basic for Applications is just one language of hundreds that are out there. You can divide programming languages a number of ways. One would be by whether it's interpreted or compiled. Visual Basic for Applications is an interpreted language, which means that it's not compiled ahead of time. So what does compiled mean? Well, compiled means that the code that the programmer has written has to run through another program called the compiler, which will check for errors, make sure that all the programming language rules have been followed, and then create a program file, the actual executable file that when you double click it will run the program. Usually these files have .exe at the end. An interpreted language doesn't get compiled ahead of time. It'll actually get compiled at the time you actually want to run the program. So that's the difference. Now, programming languages can be divided up by their purposes. What are they good at? Some are designed for desktop applications. Some are designed for the web. Some are designed for databases. And others for infrastructure. A programming language was actually used to write PowerPoint, which my slide here is done in. So that's kind of one of those under-the-cover languages. You don't really, you can't really see the language. You just see sort of the result. And I think that PowerPoint and the Microsoft Office applications were written in C++, which is another language. So top programming languages, got a page from the internet here which will kind of give you a sense we've got just 30 languages here. These are the top 30 from this one source. And you can see that the top 4 up there in the upper left, Java, C, C++, and C#, the most popular. They are all general purpose programs. They can do anything. C++ is really good at creating those infrastructure programs. They all derived from C, which is an old language, but still in use today, and is the basis for Java, C#, C++. You can tell by the syntax. We'll have an example of that later, and you can kind of see what a C family language looks like. But then farther down the list, there are some others that are more general purpose. SQL, that's designed for databases. That's structured query language. Over here, HTML. This is hypertext markup language. Every web page is rendered from code written in HTML. Kind of move on down, you can see others. ASP.NET. This is a general purpose language, but really designed for the internet. That's the main thing that it does. And so if you were to go into the details of all of these different languages, you'd see that they have oftentimes very specific purposes. So lots of languages. You don't see VBA here because it's really kind of in this Visual Basic family. And oftentimes it's really just kind of considered a kind of a Microsoft Office tool as opposed to a language of its own. I disagree with that. It's a legitimate programming language, and you'll see why. So let's move on. So those are the languages. So where does VBA come from? As I alluded to before, it's a Visual Basic programming language. It came from the original BASIC programming language written back in the 70s, which stands for Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Microsoft bought it and has taken it through several iterations. In 1998, it released Microsoft Visual Basic 6.0, which is the basis for today's Visual Basic for applications. So it's been around for a long time. The future for this old programming language is a little murky, not really sure. It's probably going to be replaced someday soon by what Microsoft today uses for Visual Basic programs, which is VB.NET. But I haven't heard of any plans to replace VBA in the short run, but it's inevitable. It will definitely go away someday. So a little more on VBA. It's not just for Excel, it's for all of Microsoft Office, and in fact it's been used for other applications as well. We're going to focus on Excel. That's kind of the way we're going to do it. That'll be the focus here. Occasionally I'll talk about the programs that we write in VBA as macros. Other times I'll call them little programs. In reality, they are programs. They are ways to manipulate computer objects and data in order to produce some output. So they are legitimate programs. They can be small, they can be big, they can be very sophisticated, or they can be simple. They can use Excel a little or a lot. Sometimes we'll write a macro or two that might not use Excel hardly at all. And these programs could interact with multiple applications. So you'll see that these macros can be as complicated as you want them to be. Okay, so that's enough for theory. Let's do some examples. First, we're going to do an example in Excel. So in order to do this program, we need to have the Developer tab visible. I'll go into that later in a later video if you're not really sure how to make that tab visible. It might not be for you right now. But if it's visible, then this Visual Basic icon is visible. So we'll click that. That will open up the computer programming environment, and we'll insert a module where we'll actually write some code. And I've got the code already kind of written, so I'll just sort of copy it in so you don't have to see me type. So here's our program. It's only 3 lines long, very simple. Sub stands for subroutines. That's one of the parts of the language that VBA uses to indicate the beginning and end of a program. And the actual working code is that line in the center there, message box hello world. So that's a program. So let's run it. Let's see what happens. Go up here to this arrow. This will run the program. And there we go. A message box pops up, and inside it says hello world. So I love this. This is the classic program that every programmer writes as their first program. Hello world. Hello world. So we'll click OK, and we're done there. Now let's do the same thing in another programming language. So that was an interpreted language. Now we're going to write the same program in C#. So this is a compiled language. The code is going to look a little different. I'll copy in the code here. So here we won't have a message box, but instead we'll have a DOS window will pop up, which we'll refer to as a console, and hello world will appear there. So first we have to compile this, so we'll do that with this build command. We're now compiled, so now let's run it. And there's our DOS window. Hello world. And if I hit enter, that'll go away. So so there you go. There's 2 different programming languages, both doing the same hello world program. Here this is from the C family, and whenever you see these curly braces, you'll know that you're looking at a C family language. And then back on in VBA, we'll have this style, which you'll see over and over again. So there you go. Those are 2 examples of small programs. All right, so that's it for now. We're going to end the video right here. So please, if you like this, subscribe and write comments, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.